Welcome to the Lisa Show, our first book club. I'm super excited about this. More Than a Body is the book that we've chosen for our body image series. And as part of it, every episode that we're doing, we are following along with the book club and looking at part of a chapter of the 6 chapters in More Than a Body. And so I'm really excited to introduce our first guest for this first chapter, friend of the Lisa Show, Kacy Faulconer. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, Lisa.
Hello. Now, we have been in a book club together before
Yes.
this moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's
in
why
real
I
life. That's right.
I know that you are more than qualified. You have, an English degree, a master's degree. You teach writing. You read everything,
I read, yes, and I have a body.
and you have a
So we're ready to discuss.
Just to
and we
dive
love
in.
to talk about books. You
We
and I
do.
love to talk about books.
Yeah, and this book is one that you have been wanting to read for a while too.
Yep, I have.
Yeah, even before that. So I always like that you have a keen sense of what's out there and you have a running list and actually an actual list of books that you want to read.
Yeah, that's
And-
true.
and
And I keep
this
a
was on
list
it.
of all the books that I do read.
Oh, do you still keep a list of
I
every
still,
single
yes.
book?
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is exciting to have you here. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
So I just out of the gate, because this is what I have done at all my book clubs, is to start off, like what were your first impressions of the book?
Okay,
Because we're just talking about chapter 1.
Yeah. I was excited to read it. I like the idea of More Than a Body. We both have daughters, and so we've thought about like these kinds of things in ways for like raising daughters. I like the thought that I am more than a body. That sits well with me. And the first thing that freaked me out, I didn't even look at the authors, but when they were talking in the prologue or the introduction,
Yeah.
they're twins.
Yes.
And I always think that twins always kind of freak me out a little bit.
Really?
It's just like so fascinating, though, that they both have PhDs.
Yeah.
And they both share their experiences. So I love that it's written by twins.
Yeah, it's really
I
fascinating.
didn't know that until I started reading.
Actually, I've worked with Lindsay.
Is she the one that lives here?
Yeah, on a totally different project years
Which
ago.
one is her? I was
She-
trying to guess which was which.
She's the one, yes. Yeah, twin sisters. Lexie's on the left and Lindsay's on the right.
So you know Lindsay?
Yeah, and we
Ah,
worked together.
That's what I guessed.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
And I
predicted that.
reached out to her about this book even before we were going to do the body image
Yeah. No,
series on the Lisa Show, just to tell her congratulations about it. And then when I knew that we were going to do this for book club, I had reached out to her too about talking about the book. And she's so busy doing another project right now. And really, they both devoted
Is it body
so
related?
much. No.
Oh, really?
It's philanthropy.
Oh, good for them.
yeah.
Good for them.
Out
Don't you
there
think
doing
it's interesting?
good.
Like, I feel like it proves their point, like that they're twins and they both had these experiences and then they both got PhDs. Like, it's
Well,
just,
and I do think that it's interesting to know something about behind the scenes of the authors and knowing the quality of just humans they are, because they have done so much good. And we'll read about this a little bit more in the book as the chapters go on, of speaking to a lot of young women in particular about overcoming a harmful body image and how you do it. And they were on every podcast and talk show and articles and really focused so much time on it. And now they're off doing other things as well with their research. It's just really an inspirational thing to have somebody put everything into it and then know when it's sort of like the end of that and it's time to move on to something else, which really does speak to the themes of the book.
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't know you knew one of them. I didn't know they were local. I didn't know they were twins.
Yeah.
And are they married? Like, what do you know about their personal
life?
Yeah.
I'll have to find out. And
Like,
get
I
back
wonder
to
if they
you.
have daughters. And maybe they'll probably talk more about it in the book, but we're only in chapter 1.
We're only in chapter 1.
But they already did mention that they go out and like talk to people and they do presentations, and it's all tied to how harmful social media is.
Right. And it's all tied to their research.
And how to deal with it. Yeah, it's very evidence-based.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good for them. Yeah, they seem cool. I love it. I was excited to read it.
I'm glad. And right off the bat, too, I mean, Chelsea Clinton.
I know.
And Sarah Nicole Landry of the Birds Papaya. A lot of body positive
Oh, and Chelsea Clinton,
women.
too. You know how mean they were to her. Can you imagine growing
know.
up? Yeah, like,
The media
I
was
love
so
Chelsea
mean to
Clinton
her. Yeah.
as a grown woman now. Yeah, good for her. Yeah, they used to talk about how awkward she was.
And
So
again,
horrible. I'm doing it now. I just did it again. In talking about it, I objectified her again, even though I did it with sympathy.
It's so
Sorry.
easy. Well, it's such a part.
Sorry, Chelsea Clinton.
It's such a part of our culture, though,
Yeah.
and which is funny because that's exactly what they talk about in the first.
Yeah.
And in that first chapter, I love the introduction though too. And I don't always read the introductions to books because I think, yeah, I want to get to it.
Yeah.
But I did for this, and I love how they start off the introduction. No one experiences having their bodies and faces enthusiastically and unapologetically oogled, scanned, and compared by both strangers and loved ones like identical twins.
Yeah.
And I just
That's
thought,
why I was
here
so
we go.
interested about the twin thing because,
Yeah.
and they were so honest. Like they used to feel like if one was just like a little bit, they call it fatter, that they called each other fat pigs. Like I thought that was so,
Like sometimes
it's
Lexie
so
was thinner,
sad.
sometimes
But yeah,
Lindsay
because
was-
they're looking at
yes.
like how different, because they look exactly the same.
And it would never
any
go
little
unnoticed.
difference. So that's again why I was like, it's so interesting that twins are writing this because they would have had a different experience. I almost like the introduction better than, not better, but I like the introduction a lot, the first
'Cause
one.
it's so
and
personal.
it defines all the things like the male gaze and then even just body positive and body resilience, which I think are things that you are going to talk about with in your podcast.
Oh, absolutely.
Just so
yeah.
that everyone's kind of on the same page about like what we mean, what you mean.
Right.
I feel like I'm part of it.
Well, we really are. And in the introduction, I loved this part. Our feelings about and perceptions of our bodies, our body image, become warped into our feelings about how we appear to ourselves and others. Mm-hmm. And those are, whether we recognize it or not. And I do think that we all come to recognize it at different times in our lives. And I think that's kind of like a unifying and sort of like connecting point, don't you think? Of we all realize, and at different times, that it's, I'm worried about how other people are perceiving.
Yeah, which is why social media is so bad because you see all these people on there. You have so many more points of comparison, even than we had growing up.
Oh, yeah.
That's why it's so bad. They're going to talk more about that. I was thinking about that because I was like, yeah, that's true. I do feel different than when I don't look at myself. Like I feel fine.
Yeah.
And then you look in the mirror or you look at other people and then you're like, oh.
Why do you think that is? Do you think
because I look worse than other people? That's what I think.
Oh,
but
you mean in like comparison?
No, but yeah, like that,
not like
that it's two separate things. Like they articulated that, which actually made me realize, yeah, I actually feel that.
Oh.
But I just thought you kind of subconsciously think, yeah, but what other people think is more valid because who cares that I just feel fine like this? Like I feel great. It's when I look in the mirror or see, other people are running marathons. Oh.
Other people look like this.
Like I feel fine. And I actually thought, well, I'm kind of a weirdo because I don't like to I look in the mirror every day, obviously. And I love to wear cute clothes and stuff. But I have some vanity. But sometimes when I catch myself in the mirror, like at the grocery store or those film cameras, I feel
I don't like those.
Like where they're filming you. I just am like, ugh. And I just think, I don't want to see that. And so I just don't look at it. And then I thought, well, that's really great. I just don't look. Like it's kind of bad.
Yeah.
But it led to a good thing because I give more validation to how I just feel.
That is,
and I
kind of
came to it through like sort of like that's probably not great that I don't feel good when I see myself on the camera. But do you feel good when you see yourself on the camera at the grocery store? It's always the worst pose.
But
I was like, I just
wish
won't
I
look because I feel great. Like until you like look in the mirror or see what everyone else is doing, and then you feel horrible. And I remember telling you this. This was in my 30s, not that long ago.
Yes.
Where it was like we were all just starting blogging and it was so supportive and wonderful.
Yeah.
And how everyone was feeling and we all felt kind of fat after you have a baby, you know,
we just had
like
a ton of babies.
and it's just hard. And then you start to realize, everyone feels like that. Anyway, so it was actually really nice. But then everyone started getting into all the stuff, which good for them. But then
it
because
became
we were all
something
sharing,
different.
I like saw all of it and everyone's doing marathons and stuff. And I was like, oh, I guess this is what you do? Like, do I have to get into this? And Zumba and CrossFit and like drinking shakes and stuff. And I was like, I don't want to do that, but I guess I should. And then here's my big realization, which is why I like the title of this. I actually had this realization where I was like, yes, I probably wish I could feel better in a swimming suit or whatever. Like maybe look better when I do see myself in the camera at the grocery store. But my body has never stopped me from doing anything I want to do.
Yeah.
I wanted to go to school. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to have kids, babies. Luckily, I was able to. I do everything I want to do.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I should be glad, I'm not just, so it's kind of like not just more than a body, but more than how you look.
Yeah.
It's like my body does everything I want to do. I'm never limited by my body because I don't try to do anything very hard.
Yeah. That's not true.
But you know what I
get
mean?
your
Like,
point.
yeah, and I was like, I should just be, I'm either going to commit a bunch of time to it, which good for people who do, and you've run half marathons and stuff, and my husband's more into some of that stuff. I really don't like it.
Right. Well,
but I'm not going to feel bad. I'm
but we don't
choosing
have to be the
not
same.
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not like I want to and I can't. I'm just not going to.
Right.
And I don't feel like I should do all of that stuff.
No, and I think that there's some power in that, though, of saying, I know what I use my body for, and it serves me. And I know what the other messaging
what I use
is.
my body for. Exactly.
Don't worry, I got the memo, but I'm just choosing not to think about it.
Yeah. And there are things, like I get migraines. And so I thought there are some things I've done to get fewer migraines, And then there are things like, oh, you're in a better mood when you go outside and walk the dog, you know. So I will do that.
No, of course, it's not like you're just
Because I like doing that.
Right.
Because I like dogs. And like I still don't maybe look in a swimsuit how I would love to look. But that's just one thing.
That's just
and
one
I
thing.
really don't think about it that much.
And you shouldn't.
When I had this realization, I was like, oh, I should be doing more. I should want this. And I was like, well, really, I'm doing everything I want my body to do.
I think that's so self-aware because right out of the gate in chapter 1, I loved how they were talking about how there's kind of this, we've all unified and we've all agreed that talking negatively about your body is what we do.
Yeah,
it's
that's
socially
just like
acceptable.
a part of womanhood.
So if somebody
it's normal to feel bad.
It's normal. It's normal to feel bad. And so for you to be like, oh yeah, I remember when I became aware of that and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that, is pretty great. Like our bodies first and people second. Like,
yeah,
that's messed up. But
is
we
messed
have,
up.
and I think I did see when that happened, like with social media and stuff, because back in the early days of blogging, and it took like a day to download like one photo, so people just like didn't do it.
No one could
and it
ever
was all
see
about
you.
writing and ideas and what we were
Yes.
thinking
those were
about,
the glory
and
days.
the glory days of like thinking and writing about how you thought and felt and your dreams and your creative expression, and then look at it now. How many words do we write?
Yeah.
It's all photos most social media platforms have. And that's how they start off, like positive body image isn't believing your body looks good. It's knowing that your body is good, regardless of how
And that's the
it
thing. I do
looks.
think that my body is, I would say fine. I wouldn't say good, but also
Your body is good.
my body is fine. And it's even when I act like it's nothing, well, I just wanted to have babies, and so I did. Like, I know that some people can't, and so that is huge. So I'm like, that's great. This is a big thing that I always wanted to be a mom, and I was able to. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And like some people can't walk and lose their body. I mean, you've been through that with someone who's slowly lost function of their body. And, I recognize that I have all kinds of privileges and things like that. Even just like, well, I don't want to run marathons, so I don't, but like I can walk.
Right. Well, and even
So-
like when you were pregnant, don't you remember the first time after you had the baby, you could sleep on your stomach
Yeah.
and roll over? Like just little things like that, I think we go through our lives, and then it helps us to realize just how many functions we take for granted.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
we
that's
just
right.
can.
How many functions we
Until
take
you
for
can't
granted.
do it. And then you go, like, you sprain your ankle or something like that. And then you go, oh, yeah, like I use my ankles
Yeah, these
And I
basic
never
things,
think about them.
these
I don't wake
basic
up every
things
day
are
and going,
awesome.
how do
Yeah.
my ankles look? And are they great? I don't even think about them. But after you sprain your ankle, you think about it all day.
And so proportionally, I mean, I'm trying to be rational. I still sort of feel bad sometimes when I catch a glimpse of myself, and I wish I didn't, but whatever. Proportionally, all the things that just come easy to me, like I should be more grateful for those things than this little bit of just frosting. Like I could wear shorts, which I actually don't wear shorts very often, but like that's not very much. And so I don't really walk around in a swimming suit a lot, and I don't show my body off a lot because I feel self-conscious about showing off my body. But that's just a really small little icing on the cake. You know what I mean? So why would I spend my whole day feeling bad about that when these other bigger things I can do effortlessly?
Yeah.
So I think that's probably a good way to think. Maybe it justifies my laziness for not wanting to run marathons. But if you spend all day worried about this little tiny extra thing that only some people really with enhanced filters and things like that and a lot of resources can do, don't let that little bit ruin your whole life.
No, you're right. And the kites talk about the objectification. Like we just live in this sea of objectification. So even with our best efforts of being like, oh yeah, this is just like one little tiny part of my body. Why am I worried about this little part of my life or whatever when I'm so much more than that? But we swim though in this messaging. And so I think a lot of times we internalize it and shame ourselves like, oh, why am I not more mentally tough? Why am I so full of myself that I just think but we have underestimated how that messaging is come from us, even from like when we were kids.
Oh, totally. And I got so mad again when they're.
I know when you read that first chapter.
About
I was
how
going to ask you what made you
and
mad.
how men can be like. It is true. Not that this is totally gendered because the same things happen to boys and girls, but men are often noted for their intelligence or their wealth or their other things, and they can still be these like eligible people. Even if they're like not that handsome. And that's always been the case.
Always.
I won't name any names, but there's like a disparity. But if you are, maybe you are a smart woman or a rich woman, but you also have to like look good.
Yeah,
and not be overweight.
And that's like
and not be disabled.
Base.
Yeah, that's the base.
That's the base.
Yeah, and that is, I think, still true.
Yeah. And we make it harder for ourselves. It's on page 15. This part surprised me. Because as soon as I read it, I go, oh yeah, that's true, but I don't think I've ever stopped to think about it. But many of us bond over shared normal discomfort with our bodies, like what we hate, what we're trying to fix, how guilty we feel for eating or not exercising. And we like try to recruit other people like, okay, we're going to do this. Come with me to, we're not going to eat any sugar. We're going to lift more weights. I mean, whatever it is. And it could be something that in listening to your body is good, but it also, it's like, but in doing that, we're not talking about other more interesting things.
That's the thing. Other more interesting things
bugged me. I thought,
I don't find those things interesting. Some people do. Like this is a personal taste thing. Like you like Zumba. You went to Zumba for a while. I did, right? And it's fun for you. And
it was really fun.
I don't like it.
Music. I loved it.
So it's sort of like that's just a difference in us. Yeah. But like, who's the lazy jerk? Me, because I don't like it. That's how you feel though, because it's good for your body. So there's like a judgment to it. Like I know that that's not rationally true, but it's kind of like, I sort of seem lazy for not liking. I know you don't judge me, and I don't judge myself because I've let it all go. But
and I've also
we judge ourselves like if we don't want to run marathons.
No, and I'm old enough to know too that bodies change.
Yeah,
and that's one thing that I hope that they'll talk about. Moving forward, and I'm pretty sure they will, but that idea of that common, hey, we're all in this together is bonded by negativity instead of positivity,
which I like
is what bothers
like the support things. And
because I like the support.
And all that stuff and achieving goals and having someone to be accountable. Like those are all good things, but you're right. It is coming out of this negative thing. And I underline that same part too on page 15. That's like, it's perfectly normal for girls and women to feel bad about their bodies most of the time. It's natural to be uncomfortable. and constantly self-monitoring. Like, that's just normal. And that's what a lot of this comes from, which is too bad.
Yeah. And
And it's a
that's
bummer.
where the book starts. And I
Yeah.
really like that. And I
Yeah.
think that this is a good place for us to sort of end our first book club. Thank you for your great
Thank you.
ideas. I feel like we have so much more to learn from the research. And so I'm really excited to continue to read.
Me too.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Next week, we're going to tackle part 2 of chapter 1 in our book for our book club, More Than a Body.